The following program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Dr. Soh, what do you say to Dr. Bowers' argument that not talking about gender identity can do more harm than good?
I think that many of these kids who are deciding to identify as a third gender, so as neither male or female or both male and female, so non-binary, gender fluid, there are millions of them at this point. It's trendy. It's a popularity thing. I think for many of these kids, especially, there's a lot of comorbidity, and for some of them, a way to feel belonging or to make sense of their discomfort in their bodies, which is very typical of young people, is to latch on to the trendiness of gender and to say, well, I must be one of these other exotic genders that are out there. And if they go in to seek help in terms of a mental health professional, the mental health professional has to affirm them. So any problem that they're presenting with, whether it's anxiety or depression, eating disorders, if they're on the autism spectrum, if they have a history of sexual trauma, if they're uncomfortable with the fact that they are gay or lesbian, I fully support gay, lesbian, bisexual people. They're told that it has to be a problem with their gender. Everything is being looked through this lens of gender, which is totally inappropriate.
Can I interrupt? That's simply not true. You're saying that every problem, mental health problem they have, is all being funneled into one chute. That just sounds ridiculous.
That is what detransitioners have told me, and this is what my colleagues in the field are telling me, which is why they're leaving the field, because they can't do their jobs properly.
Okay, first of all, the detransitioners are rare. Secondly, don't forget, I respect your credentials as a neurobiologist, but remember, I'm a clinician. I'm seeing these parents and these families, and I'm dealing with kids who have come out to their parents, good parents who are trying to enforce gender norms, and they're saying that I can't do it. This child is unhappy. I need to find out what's going on and allow them to explore these gendered feelings.
I think that's fine. I don't think parents should force their child to be gender typical, but at the same time, social transition is being sold as totally harmless. Social transition is associated with persistence and not a child growing to be comfortable in their body. I would be curious, do you not have any colleagues who would say that they cannot do their job properly? They cannot question this ideology, or maybe it's that most of your colleagues are also on board with activism.
What you did say was important, and this was the role of time. This is exactly the role of puberty blockers, which are introduced prior to the onset of puberty so that gender feelings can be explored, but not in a permanent way. So that as time goes by, and if these feelings persist, then they can allow further treatment to go on. And this is scientific, this is tracked, and in my experience, it's extremely rare to see regret. The fact that you're pulling isolated incidences and lawsuits out to make an anti-transgender campaign about being
that's the other problem, is that any criticism is considered anti-transgender when I fully love and support the transgender community. I don't think that's fair to say.
Not in your writing, sweetheart, not in your writings. It's just not fair to the community. And this is where we disagree.
I've had so many transgender people reach out to me to thank me for my book, so I don't think that's a fair criticism to make.
The debate continues, and I want to hear what you think of parents who think that this is a trendy thing because it's all over the media and their kids are getting more attention.
Yeah, well, anyone who thinks that social influence has no impact on medical decision making, that's not really being honest. So we have to be careful about just saying that there is no social influence. On the other hand, there's not a transition individual who hasn't, for many, many years normally, kept these deeply personal feelings secret. So the idea that it's suddenly coming up and it's all a case of social contagion is just misinformation that simply is not registered by the truth.
But if this increase that we're seeing is purely due to social acceptance, then why is it that we're seeing a huge sex ratio skew in favor of young women who do not have any history of gender dysphoria suddenly coming out and saying out of the blue that they want to identify as male? It's very quickly.
Great question.
And you mentioned puberty blockers. You mentioned this being slow.
Let me answer.
Slow process. I've heard of young people getting access to hormones in one hour appointment. Yes.
Okay, so young women have always been the first to jump into between the sexes. Female assigned individuals seeking out some of the areas between genders is a natural consequence of the fact that we all have both and that we're all from the same area and that we're really much more alike than we are different.